All right, let's bring in the voice of college football, Fox Sports college football analyst. We disagree a lot, Joel Klatt. This week they got a great game. Northwestern and Ohio State Saturday at noon. The great Gus Johnson, Joel, and Jenny Taft, Big Ten Championship Fox, joined Colorado as a preferred walk-on, meaning of the walk-ons, they liked him a little more, not much.
It's true.
Okay, so...
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great. Was listening to you earlier.
Yeah, spreading a lot of gospel.
Well, there's a lot of wrong. Here we go.
But let's talk about this. Let's find agreement. You would acknowledge that a one-loss SEC team and a one-loss Pac-12 team, if I had to push you on it, generally if you had to guess, you'd say SEC team plays in 100,000-seat stadiums, more NFL players, a little harder.
Yeah, like A&M's better than Colorado. There you go.
Okay.
I acknowledge and agree.
So we acknowledge all things are not equal.
Sure.
So there is a threshold in which I would put Cincinnati ahead of Florida. But because of the SEC and the players, it's 3 losses, not 2. If a kid doesn't throw a shoe, I feel so bad for that kid. We're not even...
I don't. He chucked a shoe.
We're not even having the argument, if not for a kid throwing a shoe.
Well, let's not let Florida off the hook. It's not like LSU is world beaters rolling in there. What were they, 28-point dogs, starting a true freshman in his very first start? They had 54 scholarship players in a week in which they talked about 20 players transferring out of there, and Ed Ogeron's losing all control, and they roll out there. And you're blaming a shoe throw? It's like, well, Florida should have beat them. Save for that shoe throw. They shouldn't have been in that situation. They're supposed to have a Heisman front runner in Kyle Trask.
Do you want to see Cincinnati play Alabama? It's an interesting pause.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Well,
I don't think that. Well, let's be honest. In college football, there are very few, if any, years that you can argue that the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th best team in the country really deserves a shot at the national championship.
That's where you and I have always agreed.
That's where and I've said that for years, right? And there's no doubt about that. However, I think the frustrating part for me when it comes to the playoff committee, right? Like our system right now in college football is that it's wrought with contradictions. And that's what's frustrating to me. The reason it's not 8 and it's 4, and we only expanded a little bit from the BCS National Championship to now a 14 playoff was several reasons, but really mainly 2. We wanted to maintain this unique and important regular season. We couldn't play extra games in December's during finals week. That's crazy. And yet here we are this week. And last night, the committee basically told us that regular season games don't matter. Whether you win or lose, we're just going to put you wherever we think you should go.
I think you're over. They're saying they matter, but as I've said,
but hold on,
they're not everything.
How do they matter if Louisiana beats Iowa State by multiple touchdowns, Coastal Carolina beats Louisiana, and then Iowa State and Coastal are ranked where they're ranked? So clearly they don't matter. The fact that Cincinnati dropped a spot and Florida dropped a spot, 1 spot each, in a week in which Cincinnati didn't even play, and Florida, as I just talked about, they were 28-point favorites. They were playing a team that had 54 scholarship players, starting a true freshman quarterback in his very first start.
By the way,
you were at home. You should win that game.
The committee isn't allowing Florida to play for a national championship. All the committee is saying is they're better than Cincinnati.
But at this
point,
I
think they are.
The fact that they dropped them only to where they dropped them leaves this glimmer of if they were to beat Alabama this week, wouldn't they potentially be in the playoff? So they're leaving these little avenues. But the contradiction from the committee, if we're going to just say, hey, the regular season doesn't matter, like the committee told us it didn't matter last night, then let's expand the playoff and really start watering down the regular season, which is what an expanded playoff would do. The other one was we can't play during finals week. I'm sorry. My watch says December 16th. Anybody else? I haven't heard a syllable from anybody as it relates to these players this year because of COVID playing right through finals week.
I think this is the difference. I've come to terms with, I can departmentalize stuff pretty well. NBA is a star-driven league. I accept some nonsense from star players saying, plane leaves when I get there. This part. The NFL is more structured. I come to terms with college football.
Okay.
That we know the NFL GMs tell us, the high school recruiting rankings tell us, the best players are mostly in the South. I have a history of 15 years of them dominating these games. So I always give a pass to the SEC. Now, I am called an SEC homer. Funny, I work at the network that doesn't have their games. I was called that forever, and now I've always just said, in college football, I lean south if I've got an argument. I just go with them. Because that's what history
regardless
tells.
of what the games suggest.
Well, the games suggest.
So you're telling me that you really want recruiting rankings to matter, right? Like for you, that's a big deal.
Here's a good way to say it. If you went out and did let's say you go out and do a Saturday game, and you go out and do a game. It's Ohio State, Penn State, and it's exhausting. You guys work your butt off. You get up early, you travel, you come home Sunday. You don't. Sunday morning, you're in a fog a little bit.
Sure.
You have given so much energy to Fox and you and Gus, and it goes a couple of years ago, Ohio State, Penn State. I'm thinking you're flying home exhausted. It was so.
Sure.
What I am saying about the SEC is when you play SEC teams, you have more injuries.
There's no doubt.
So the SEC teams, there is a little roller coaster effect that if you go to LSU and win, you have 7 injuries. The following week you lose. I'm like, yeah, but part of it is because you played LSU. If you're Cincinnati,
I don't disagree with that.
You play Memphis.
I don't disagree with that. And I have been a big conference snob at times.
I am.
And self-proclaimed.
I'm a snob on that stuff.
But it's fascinating to me because I still don't. I just want to push back on like recruiting rankings need to matter for how we crown a champion. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Like it still needs to rest on the field. Results need to matter more than potential. They just do. I mean, look, Colin. I mean, you of all people should want results to matter. You didn't have any pedigree. You're just like kind of a weird guy with a squeaky voice from Portland. You went to Eastern Washington. They have a red field for crying out loud.
Yeah,
you didn't go to Syracuse.
You're right.
You have no pedigree.
You're right.
You shouldn't be in the chair that you're in, but you are. You know why? You're really good. You're really good.
You can continue
Results
on that topic
matter.
if you'd like. All right.
So it doesn't matter, folks, at home. I get it. You think he's weird with a squeaky voice?
So,
I do too.
So he played to my vanity. This is the manipulative nature of Klatt. So he wins this
I just think it's a solid argument. It's a philosophically sound argument.
Okay,
you are Iowa. Oh, that was beautiful,
good hell,
folks.
don't go there.
You are.
Not Iowa.
You are. Colin is Cincinnati. That's the beauty of this. So that's why I'm shocked at your own
but I hate
opinion.
myself a lot.
No, you shouldn't hate yourself because
Self-loathing.
results matter.
I hate myself
results
a lot.
matter.
Okay, let's go to this.
There could be some guy from Syracuse sitting in your, he could be a former Hall of Famer, all the talent in the world. You get results.
I stepped on his neck years ago.
Yes, you did.
So Bama
results
1, Notre Dame
matter.
2, Clemson 3, Ohio State 4. I'm going to throw this at you. I'm going to get so much hate for this.
Uh-oh.
I can see 3 of them winning a national championship. I can't see Ohio State winning. I don't like their defense. I don't think they can win it. And I have been fighting for them all year, playing 5 games, getting in.
Well, they should get. I think they should get in. They're clearly one of the 4 best teams, if that's the criteria we're going to use.
I think Notre Dame could pound the football, run the clock. Now, I think Alabama.
It's a game I'd love to see.
So I think Alabama's going to win. But if Alabama played Clemson in the opener with Trevor Lawrence, they could lose. Of the 4 teams, and I think they deserve to be in, I think Ohio State's the weakest. That's my takeaway.
The factor that you may be missing. Let me just bring up 2. And this is not a huge defense because, listen, I would not pick Ohio State even against Clemson. I would pick them against Notre Dame. I would not pick them. Are you
sure?
It would be a tight game, but I would pick them. I'm not saying
why would you pick
10.
them?
Why would I pick them? Their defensive front 7 is very good. Very good. Maybe as a front 7, even better than last year, although they don't have the individual greatness like Chase Young. As a unit, they're very good. Veteran, their linebacker core, their defensive line. And then, this is the one thing, and again, this is where maybe you're contradicting yourself. You love the best player on the field, generally. Quarterbacks win games.
Yeah, I do.
Justin Fields is a huge factor in this.
But you and I both agree Ohio State's defense doesn't feel as good this year.
No, you're exactly right. The secondary is not as good. They're giving up more big plays. Their front 7 is good. And all I'm saying is that I don't think Ian Book is the type. Like, if they play Clemson, I'm worried for Ohio State because of Trevor Lawrence.
Same with Alabama.
Same with Alabama with their passing game.
Okay, so you don't think Ian Book could take advantage of their secondary?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, that's fair. That's fair.
That's the only thing. But I wouldn't pick Ohio State over Clemson. I wouldn't certainly pick them over Alabama. Alabama is the best team in the country.
Yes, they are. I want to throw something at you. When you love something, you want to see it right. It's like our kids.
Yeah.
You know, and you give them advice, and it's always, they may not like it, but your heart's in the good place.
Sure.
So I love college football, but I'm going to throw I think Joy and I would both admit, can we hire a CEO of the sport?
Oh,
So it's not,
I'm with you guys.
Not balkanized and everybody's doing their own.
By the way, after Saturday, I'm free.
So, well, I mean, like in broadcasting, we have the FCC. You have to be governed. But this is the difference.
An overarching governing entity.
The difference between UFC and boxing, why the UFC exploded, was they had Dana White.
That's right.
A centralized figure that calls the shots and can be very unpopular.
And can act on behalf of the sport.
Yes.
And not individual silos
like
within the
boxing
sport.
Promoters.
That's
right.
exactly right. I've brought up this analogy before on your show.
I'll throw this one out. The easiest way to make it at least a little more even, instead of 85 scholarships, you go to 70. The NFL's more violent. They've got 55 guys there.
I disagree because I am not going to be in the business of removing opportunity from kids
Remember,
to go to school and earn a scholarship.
Oh, boy, you throw that out
there.
there.
Well, I'm not, right? Like, I'm just...
Listen, I mean, half these sports are getting cut. What about the volleyball player at blankety-blank school?
Well, that's one of the reasons why it was so important to play football in the first place, is because without football's revenue, you can't have all the ancillary sports. So if you want the intercollegiate model at all for opportunity for men's soccer players, female lacrosse players, volleyball, swimming, if you want those people to have opportunity in college to further their life and have opportunity, then you need college football.
Okay, what I'm saying, though, going from 85 to 15, your initial impression is it's fewer kids getting scholarships. What I'm saying is they're more spread out. It may hurt the walk-on because we don't need you, because more of those kids are going to go to your non-traditional powers.
I do think that the name, image, and likeness coming into college football may spread some of the best players out. And the reason is it would be more advantageous monetarily for a player, Colin, to go be the singular five-star player at Utah in Salt Lake rather than being the 15th five-star player in Tuscaloosa. Because
it'll spread the quarterbacks out.
Well, and I think it'll spread, so it would be better to be a big fish in a small pond from a monetary standpoint with name, image, and likeness than it would be to just be the 15th. Because right now, the talent is all at the top. The playoff has pushed all the talent to the top. Like, it's today's early signing day period. Look at the class that Alabama and Ohio State are signing. It's absurd.
And I consider that when I look at rankings.
No.
It's your personnel.
Colin, again, you have zero pedigree. You went to a school with a red field. You are a weird guy from Portland. You are Cincinnati. This is like, you should be rooting for results over potential.
Yeah, but there's a reason I played the lottery. I wanted to be powerful. I hated being Cincinnati. I like being Alabama in my field.
But the problem with your argument is that you're not providing an avenue for that to happen. For that, you had an avenue because you were in a meritocracy and a results-oriented. People either listened or they didn't to you, and they listened because you're interesting. You have good arguments.
Oh, I thought I was goofy and you didn't like me.
Well, those are true. So I really like you and I like listening to you. It doesn't mean that you're not weird from Portland and have a squeaky voice and with no pedigree.
Okay, so
you keep changing the subject when I bring that up.
All right, no, we had most agreement today. I think Joy and I have been on this. Like, could you hire a CEO for the sport?
I'm with that. I'm ready for an overarching governing body. I've brought up the analogy, and it's probably boring, but college football is like our country before the Constitutional Convention. We just had like 13 colonies not adhering to international law or so on and so on. We needed an overarching governing body, and we got an overarching governing body, and that's what really took things off.
That was boring. I thought it was educational. I feel smarter having listened to that.
Constitutional Convention.
Happens once about a month maybe, but nonetheless I appreciate it.
I'm just glad that you're in a results-oriented business.
Okay, Ohio State, you can't get the score. I understand you guys. I like Ohio State by about 10 over Northwestern. I think the best academic school, the best football school. It will be competitive. Two great coaches. There you go.
Northwestern's a good defense. I will tell you that.
All right.
And I really like Pat Fitzgerald, by the way.
Who doesn't?
He's one of the best coaches in America, any level.
And by the way, not about money, not about prestige, has been offered everything shy of the Bears job. He's been offered NFL jobs, college jobs. He loves where he's at.
I'm proud of you.
Why?
You know that?
Why?
Look at where you're at.
Oh, enough. Okay,
That's a big chair.
Years of consistency matter too, Joel.
That's
if you,
exactly
if you
right.
8-0 for every single
You make it
year,
sound like I was
or
raised.
15 years.
He is results. He got results, Joy.
He makes it sound like I was raised by otters. I had parents.
I mean, you
I had
were
a doctor
from
as a dad.
I mean,
an honor student mother. My sister's bright. Yeah, I'm not like some.
Just saying, you went to Eastern Washington.
It's the Harvard of the Palouse. Don't you forget. Pal.
Listen.
There
I'm complimenting you. Look at you. I'm proud of you. You did it.
Your time's up. No better story than a Cinderella story. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.